We are live. Jeremy Lamb, welcome to the Weekly Profit, man. I'm so happy to have you. I'll have an intro before this podcast gets rolling, but for those of you that are new here, Jeremy is the acting COO at Blacklight Group, a marketing agency that we're going to learn all about. They've got some insane numbers that I can't wait to pick your brain about. But Jeremy, an entrepreneur based in Nashville, Tennessee. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good, man, and I'm happy to be here and talk a little bit about myself and the business.
Yeah, man. How often is this your first podcast interview? Have you done them in the past? I always like to kind of pick people's brain about that.
Yeah, this is number two. First one was a while ago. It's a local one here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm from.
Okay, very nice. So you're from Nashville originally.
Originally, no, I've been here for like 3 years. I'm from Illinois originally, like Springfield, Illinois area.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my mom, she grew up in Peoria, Illinois.
Okay.
So I've been, yeah,
Very
super
nice.
cool. Yeah, hard work in place. And that's why I always like when people from the Midwest become entrepreneurs, they typically do very well. And that's kind of where I want to start with this, man. Like, what are you most excited about in the world of, what you're doing on the day-to-day basis?
Right. So Blacklight Group, as you kind of mentioned, we're a full service digital marketing agency. So we do everything from like websites to PPC to Facebook ads and SEO and content and social media, all the digital marketing things, man. And I'm really excited, really just about the whole industry. It's going in a very positive direction, and especially with like recent technology and AI and all that good stuff. I'm just kind of excited to see how the industry as a whole kind of advances. And even more so with that at Blacklight Group, yes, I'm the COO, but I also pretty much run our entire digital advertising department too. So there's like a special place in my heart for like digital advertising piece. So I'm really excited. You can tell I'm probably passionate about the whole digital advertising side as well.
Yeah, 100%. I saw it just from what I pulled from your LinkedIn bio. I'm sure it's above that number now. But you managed over $7.5 million in ads. Can you what can you take us through like what the evolution of that has been, basically from, I guess maybe from like your first client doing this into where you're at now? Like, are you surprised that you're at 7.5 million plus in ads managed? Is it not surprising to you? Like, kind of take me through the journey. So that's a big number. That's a lot of money for people being made.
Yeah, man. So I'll be honest with you. It kind of surprises me sometimes when I think about that number because when I started in the industry, before I started Blacklight Group, I was working in a company called High Level Marketing at the time doing their digital advertising. And back then I was managing budgets of like $1,000 to $2,000, sometimes $3,000 a month. And to go from like managing $1,000 to $3,000 a month to now managing like 15, 20, my biggest client's $100,000 a month in digital advertising. Like, it's just kind of crazy how that's all evolved.
Yeah, 100%. And what is the biggest challenge you'd say for that you face compared, from a $3,000 client? Because a lot of people listening to this, I literally have a connection with one that I've been talking to all week, and he's just getting his boots off the ground. But his focus is Google and Facebook ads. And so he's going to have those initial retainers, right, at the 1 to 3.
Right.
Okay, a month. Yes, I think a better way to frame that question: what advice would you give that person, and what advice would you give the person now on moving forward, and seeing this sustained success?
Yeah, I would tell people, and I tell anybody who ever asks me about digital advertising, I tell this to my clients, I tell this to people that are working digital advertising, that patience is huge with digital advertising. And kind of the reason that I tell people that is, it's all data and algorithm based. And if you know anything about algorithms, it takes time for the algorithms and the machine learning to learn to do what they're supposed to. And what a lot of kind of novices and people who don't work in digital marketing specifically do is they'll let the campaigns run for 2 or 3 weeks and they'll lose a little bit of money, and then they'll get frustrated and put them on pause and never do it again. Or they'll start making drastic changes to try to get things to start kind of kicking off before the algorithms even really have a chance to learn and kind of do what they're supposed to. So biggest piece of advice for anybody who wants to get into advertising is doing advertising for their own business. Just patience. It takes a little bit of time for those campaigns to get off the ground.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. That's great advice, and it hits on a key point. Like, nobody's gonna know who you are unless you tell them. So like, when people are like on the fence, it's like, are you doing anything? I faced this in my own business just recently. It was like we were organically driving everything basically through the acquisition system that we were selling. And I was like, yeah, like the results are okay, but I'm not doing anything on the other end. And it's because of that same situation you just hit on. Like I try to do it myself and then I get frustrated. And then, so the key is to obviously find those people that are highly skilled. But let's say you are like me, you're like all these other entrepreneurs and you just want that you have that mindset of I can do this myself. How would you go about educating yourself right now before implementing it, with your business? And do you have like a suggested time frame somebody should spend to like understand this stuff before they just go throw it on their, business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely don't recommend just saying, "Oh, I can do Facebook ads. Let me just throw something up and see what happens." That I would say don't do that because with Google too. So whatever advertising platform you're talking about, there's a lot of small targeting and like settings on the back end of these platforms. And if you turn one off in the wrong way or a different way that doesn't align with the goals of the campaign, you're honestly kind of screwed. So I would say first piece of advice would be like, make sure you are educated on everything. And you kind of asked where you go to do that education. I'm a big fan of, I call it YouTube Academy, where there's so many people on YouTube who will teach you this stuff for free, so especially the basics. Like the advanced, you might need to pay for a course or a program or something like that. But the basics of how to run a Facebook or Google or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever advertising campaign quickly, and the basics, like I said, that's all on YouTube. You can find that stuff all for free. And on top of that, I know Google and I think Facebook have a basic course where you can actually get certified in their advertising platforms as well. And those are huge if you're just kind of getting off the ground to learn the basics too.
100%, man. And what do you like? I always have this question. I want to hear your perspective on it because you got over the hump of committing time to where you weren't necessarily the best at it, but you got through those, and now you're where you're at. So what do you think holds most people back from taking those initial steps? They know they need advertising for their business. They know the YouTube stuff's on there for free, but what held you back in the past? What do you think holds most people back now?
I would say a huge thing is the fear of losing money, especially if you're newer to your business and every cent counts. I understand from that perspective that if you're not 100% confident in your ability to run Facebook ads and you only have $2,000 or $3,000 to throw at it, it's pretty scary to go in and be like, okay, I'm going to go try to learn this myself. And I'm going to take the time to learn this and lose a little bit of money up front in the process. A lot of people are just like, they freeze almost like, oh my gosh, what if I mess it up and I lose my entire marketing budget for this quarter or whatever, which I would say is kind of, it's a real fear. But, if you give yourself enough time and enough leeway to actually learn what you're doing and know how to read the data. And again, I talked about patience a little bit and have the patience to kind of let the algorithms do what they're supposed to do. That's probably not going to happen unless you really, really mess it up, which it's kind of hard because Facebook, Google, they'll kind of tell you like, hey, your campaign is messed up. Here's how you can fix it as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you circled it back because that's what I was going to say. It does come down to this idea of patience, and especially the young entrepreneurs listening to this, like we're 18 to 25 years old. We want things now. We're fed the short form content and we can get things now, we think, at least anyway.
Right.
So it's an interesting dynamic coming up because that's one thing like I see with my LinkedIn audience. Patience is, it's a virtue. These are more older, established individuals, and this new stuff, they're willing to take the time and learn, and they're really easy clients to actually work with. And, the younger ones, it's like, they think like 6 months is like at the end of the world. I'm like, dude, your whole perspective can change, and you separate yourself apart of the person that's willing to go about that patience. So that's cool, man. Did you go to university before your caramel? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois, so I studied digital marketing at Illinois State University. It's where I went in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. And while I was there, I actually got kind of a step up in the terms of like learning advertising. I had a couple internships in digital advertising while in college, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And what was your pull to that? Because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. But you were or majored in digital marketing, you're studying it, you went after these internships. I mean, where did you see the opportunity at that point?
Yeah, I actually have kind of it's a funny story on how I got into digital advertising.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the game Roblox by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was like 14, 15, I was obsessed with Roblox. And if you're unfamiliar, on Roblox, you can like create games, you can like code your own game and build a game. And then on the side of the screen on Roblox, there are like ads that you can create to bring people to your game. And I got pretty good at making the ads, and I was terrible at the coding. I could not figure out how to make a good game to save my life. I couldn't figure out how to like code and do all that kind of stuff. But I got really, really good at making the ads on the sides of the screen. And I remember I had downloaded like a bootleg version of Photoshop because I was 14 and couldn't afford to buy Photoshop, and just really, really found enjoyment in creating these ads. And this is where it gets a little funny is on Roblox, you can like spend real life money on like a digital currency called a Robux. And I got so good at making these ads that people would pay me in Robux to make ads for their games. So like other players on Roblox were paying me in Robux to make ads for their games. So like I was like 14, I was running this little advertising agency on Roblox. And then like I grew up and stopped playing video games as much and whatever, and went to college, and I knew I wanted to study marketing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I took it's like a digital marketing intro class. And that's when the light bulb kind of went off. I was like, oh, I used to love doing this when I was a kid. I'm just going to do this as a career,
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. That's so interesting. How did these guys approach you? Could you message them on, could they message you on Roblox, or were they going and finding you elsewhere?
Yeah. So they can message you on Roblox. I was also on Reddit a lot. So people on Reddit were like, hey, does anybody know how to make Roblox ads? And I would get on there and be like, yo, me. And then also on the ads, I would always put like ad made by and then my username like in the small little corner. So anytime anybody ever saw my ad, like somebody saw that it was made by me. So then they can just DM me on Roblox.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Cool, man. It's such a unique story, and it's like a lot of people can probably relate. Like I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was the kid selling baked goods in his elementary school, and now it's no surprise he's in high ticket sales, right? And like
Right.
I was kind of the same way. I kind of started my first company in high school, and I was like the light bulb just goes off. Like when you know. Now, what kind of talk to me about the outside pressure you must have, I guess, felt from this at least a little bit, on your entrepreneurial journey. Has there been any, like, I guess, outside doubt that you had to deal with, or have you always kind of never had to really face that as you were coming up?
Yeah, man. So like I said, I worked at a couple digital marketing agencies, big corporate ones for a while. And a lot of the doubt was like in my own head. I had known for a long time, like it's called the entrepreneurial itch. I'm sure you get it all the time where it's like, I want to do this. I want to start my own thing. I'm tired of working for the man. I'm tired of having somebody breathing down my neck, blah, blah, blah. And I had this entrepreneurial itch for like a year before I went and started my business. And I just ignored it. So I was like, well, I have this salary and I have these benefits and I don't know if it'll work and et cetera. You know how it goes. And so for like a year, I just like doubted myself. I didn't do it. But at the same time, I was like actually freelancing. So I was like doing digital advertising while working at a marketing company. And kind of what pushed me to do it was, and I'm going off track a little bit, but kind of what pushed me to do is I got fired from that job because they figured out that I was doing freelancing and like they saw me as competing against the company that I was working for. And I was like, well, like I'm fired. I have the skill set now. I might as well just do it. So that's kind of the story behind how that all started. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's so funny. I got chills hearing that because I was in the same boat. As soon as I graduated, it was like I had this marketing agency that I ran in high school and I knew I'd worked, but I had this degree and I was applying to these remote social media marketing jobs and they were okay. Like you said, like it was enough to get by. But then same thing. They like saw my Instagram and my podcast and they just thought of every situation possible. And it ended up being one of those like where you don't want to tell them that and it's bothering you type thing. And I was just over it. But then, yeah, right. Like that's the drive you need. Now, what challenges did you face initially, going off and starting your own thing? I mean, you hit on a couple key things, you're stepping into the unknown. So like, what was the most important thing you had to learn when you first branched off on your own?
Yeah, I would say sales is the biggest thing that I had to learn because up until I had started my own company, I like hyper specialized in learning how to advertise and how to manage these advertising platforms and how to run a successful ad campaign. But I'd never had to sell it before. I'd never had to convince someone to give me my money in order to do it. We had sales teams at these agencies that I worked at that did this. So I started this business not knowing how to sell anything to anybody. I didn't have sales skills. I didn't have negotiation skills. So like for the first few months of my business, I was honestly kind of struggling because I just didn't know how to get in front of the right people and get the right clients and even find clients. And when I did find a client, I was like so desperate to take on a client at the beginning. I was like, you know what, I'll take it for half of what I should be charging or whatever. So that's pretty biggest challenges I struggled with at the beginning was just learning to sell and learning to, charge the prices that I deserved for my services.
100%, man. And that's such a, like, there's so many people that are going to be hearing this being like, I'm in that seat now, or I just was in that seat. And I feel you, 100%. And it was like, same realization. Like, and it may be like the university thing. I don't like to rag on it, but it's like you are instructed, and we never took like a sales class. In my whole entrepreneurial degree, I did not take one sales class. And it's so funny because I was like, damn, I am good at this, but like, just,
Yeah.
I can't get word out, and I'm not good at social media yet. So I'm not comfortable talking about the journey. Like, I don't feel like I've done anything yet. Like, I was facing those limitations. And then I actually went back to work at a startup in sales because that's what the light bulb went off. I was like, you have not learned how to properly sell. So appointment set, and then, close, and then manage a sales team. And then a year later, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to relaunch with my own offer. So no, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you hit on that. How did you go about attacking that problem? How did you get better reps when it came to sales? Did you find a mentor, or was it more self-taught?
It's a little bit of both. So actually, there's this guy named Jeremy Haynes. He runs a marketing agency called Megalodon Marketing, and he did marketing for Grant Cardone. And this guy absolutely crushed it with ads. And he started his agency when he was like 20, I think he was like 21 or 22. And he scaled it like multiple millions and stuff like that. And he started a mentorship kind of mastermind group for agency owners, which includes things like sales scripts and how to structure deals and how to do digital advertising correctly, all that stuff. So that really is kind of what was the change for me. Was I joined this mastermind group, and within this mastermind group, he has like a 30 something plus video series on selling digital advertising and marketing services specifically. And I ate that up and started applying what I learned from this mastermind group. And that was a big thing. And on top of that too, I actually kind of realized that sales isn't my strong suit, running the ads is. So I actually connected with a couple of people who helped me do sales and outreach now. So even though I know how to do it now, I have people who are like experts at it, kind of helping me do it for the agency now.
No, 100%. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you touched on that because, like, in my world and in a few other guys I talked to, it's like Facebook and Google ads are the weakness. It's like I get on the phone and sell people all day. Like, I love it. It's fun. It's the getting more word of mouth out and like doing more marketing, and then not wanting to take that, like, find a mentor for Facebook ads, rather just, outsource it out. So that's good. You're hitting on a few key things. It's like assessing your strengths. Like, what are you really good at within getting this business rolling? Because that's what you're going to be obsessed with, Cool, man. Now, how long have you been with your current company?
Right. So technically Blacklight Group has been in existence for 3 months. It was in February. But I actually started my own advertising agency that was just advertising prior to Blacklight Group that I had run for about a year. And story behind that is I met some guys who did like website development and SEO, and I met some guys that did like social media management and content creation, and essentially 3 companies merged into one that's now Blacklight Group.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. Cool. And is there anything that stood out because to these that forced you, or like gave you the confidence to want to join in with these other groups? Because like you mentioned, you had something going on your own, and it's tough. We lean towards friends, we lean towards family, but it's like, how did you know this was the right, crew to move forward with at that point, in your career?
Right. Yeah. So what really did it for me was my business partner. His name's Ander. I met him in a networking group here in Nashville, and we were just talking, and I started realizing like this guy has pretty opposite skill sets as me that if we were to work together would be very complementary. Like he's very sorry, I'm getting a call.
You're good.
I would say yeah, he's got like opposite skill sets as me, and he's really good at talking to people. He's really good at sales. His company did like the web development. I have no idea how to build a website. So that was kind of what it was initially. Is like, wow, like we could work together and absolutely crush it. And then so I met Ander first, and then one of my other business partners, his name is Ryan Reed. He ran the content agency, and Ander met him playing basketball, and was like, Jeremy, you got to meet this guy. Like we got to bring him on because he has all the stuff that we don't offer yet. And kind of what made us really want to like merge all three companies together is just like the possibility of offering all services, digital marketing under one roof means we could pitch bigger clients, we could land more deals. These people don't have to like hire one company for content, one company for social media, one company for ads, and one company for website. The fact that we can offer it all under one roof is just an easier sell. And that's kind of, we can go for bigger clients, we can go for higher ticket clients, we can go for better clients. It's all under one roof.
100%. Yeah, that's a great kind of thing you realize in terms of where to go and combine. I mean, I think some challenges people face when it comes into that is like, how do you manage keeping everyone in their own lane? I would say, is that something you guys face? Do you all work on everything together? Like, I'm curious about that. I think that's a challenge a lot of people they maybe fear or they're currently facing. We do have all these different skill sets, but now we're under one roof and we want to move the company forward. Like, can you talk to me about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think with us, it was established pretty early on kind of what our roles and responsibilities were within the company. And we all know, like, I'm an expert in ads, and we have a website developer who's an expert at website development and content, et cetera. So we kind of know, like, we stick in our own lanes because that's what we're experts at. And that's really what it comes down to is like, we had this conversation at the very beginning. We were like, hey, like, we're all equal business partners here. No one is no one's boss. Let's just stick in our lanes and do what we're experts at and stick to what we're good at, So we really don't have any like stepping on each other's toes or like fighting for power or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I want to go back into the sales side of things now, with the company being the size it is. What stands out to you about, I guess if you know this, on the sales side of the salespeople that are killing it, and, I guess what do you guys do to kind of keep that train rolling on the sales side?
Yeah. So we do our deals and our business a little bit differently than a lot of marketing agencies. Now, our kind of whole thing is like a lot of marketing agencies, and I'm not like trying to slight against anybody if you do structure your deals this way, but a lot of marketing agencies will be like, hey, I want you to sign on for a year with us. And, one of our differentiators is like, hey, we do month-to-month contracts because we feel like it's your right for us to earn your business month after month, because that means we have to perform over and over and over again. And that's one big differentiator. And that's one thing that's helped drive a lot of sales is like people really, really like that because, everybody wants to be assured that they have an out if they're not happy. And that's one of our main selling points. It's like, we're so confident that we can help you that you're going to want to work with us every single month. It's essentially kind of our mindset on it. And on top of that too, we don't hold anything that we build for you like accountable. It's like we build you a website or we build your social media accounts or whatever. It's like, you don't have to buy that from us. You don't have to like contractually pay us for that stuff. If you want to leave, like that's really kind of what it is like, we have a little bit of like slightly different ways of doing things where as a prospect, you're like, oh, these guys are confident enough to offer this to us when these other marketing companies didn't. That's a really huge thing in terms of how we drive a lot of sales.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a key point. So many people are afraid to work, at any level of a performance basis. And that doesn't even just mean pay on result, but like you mentioned, not locking them into a contract of like a year because then, I mean, it limits you on the ways you can adapt. I've always been a big proponent of the month to month structure as well, because you also get companies where they reach a ceiling. They can only manage 25 people. So why, they don't want to enter that trap of a whole year. That's awesome, man. The creator, we kind of touched on this. You're a pretty big digital creator, digital storyteller per se, as I like to call it. But when people are getting into the content game, it's like storytelling is such a big piece of it. So can you talk to me about that? Kind of highlight your expertise on storytelling. What goes into someone who's a good storyteller, and how can people improve on that?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of context. I also do content creation, social media for those listening, on top of running an ad agency and a marketing agency. And my primary niche is I do I call it edutainment. It doesn't really have a name, but it's like you're educating people and entertaining them at the same time through telling interesting stories. And kind of what I've learned is you can have the most interesting topic in the world, but if you don't know how to talk about it in a way that people find interesting, people aren't going to listen. You're not going to get views. You're not going to get traction, all that stuff. So really, and this comes from my advertising background as well, is I'm a huge data person. So like all of these platforms, they will tell you where people dropped off in your videos. They'll tell you your retention rate. They'll tell you all of that stuff. And I really use that data to kind of help me learn how to tell a story. Because again, I'm a huge data nerd and I love data and I love kind of what data can tell you about things. So that's really my approach to it, is just try a million different things in terms of your storytelling and your content, and then let the data tell you what works, and then just hammer in on what's working.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. A lot of people, they want to ignore that component of it, and it literally will tell you everything you need to know. It's like a big theme around a lot of what we talked about is just asking yourself the right questions. Right. Like, am I really good at this? Am I passionate about this? Is this working? Is this piece of the puzzle what I really need right now? So that's great, man. Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit, but yeah, the creator economy is on its way to being $500 billion industry. I mean, and then we touched on AI a little bit. Can you talk to me about your perspective on that? Hearing those things, kind of the AI, the digital, really the creator economy moving forward. I mean, what is your take on it?
Well, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, AI is going to take our job, then they're going to replace content creators and blah blah blah." I think that fear is. I personally don't agree, but some people that's a legitimate fear. Some people, and I think of AI more as a tool rather than, something that's going to replace you. So if you can learn how to leverage AI in your own content, you're set. And your own content, if you use it for work, use it for whatever. If you can use it correctly, it's not going to replace you. It's only going to help you.
Yeah, 100%. And you see it having I'm sorry, this is kind of a question from outside. But in terms of AI VR, like I hit on this a couple episodes ago where it was like some generations had iPhones, and then the next generation, it was like kids with iPads. Now these kids are putting on headsets. So do you see a world where digital marketing, I want to get your take on this too, but like digital marketing entwines with call it a virtual reality that is slowly taking shape, but with AI, I think is going to be here sooner than we think?
I have a interesting opinion on that. I don't think that it's going to be that big of a deal and it's going to be huge. Because I think it was called, I don't remember what it's called. It was like in the early 2000s. There was this video game where you could like create a character and you can go online and you can play as your character online. I can't remember at the top of my head what it's called, but I think it was Coca-Cola invested millions of dollars on buying ads within this video game, and they just flopped and it lost a boatload of money. I personally think that's kind of what's going to happen, with VR and AI and stuff like that. They might try to advertise within a VR helmet, but in my opinion, people can distinct what's real and what's not real, whether it looks real or not. And I don't think like companies are going to come in and start advertising in there and it's going to have that big of an impact, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you say that, because you're in this every every single day. So that's it's a good perspective. Cool, man. Now, one question we always typically ask towards the end of these, what's one question you have for me?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about me. I guess what is your biggest piece of advice for budding entrepreneurs or even experienced entrepreneurs?
Yeah, interesting. Well, I always like to say, I'm in the midst of the process, but that's the common disease we all have is like we feel like we could be doing more. We touched on patience, so I won't say that. That has been really important for me. But I would say self-confidence. If it's like one of those things where you focus on try to find things outside the business that can help you within the business. And self-confidence has been a big thing for me on that because I think it's evergreen. I think it helps you in no matter what you want to do. And basically my biggest keys for that is I just started, when I wanted my business to grow, it was like I started spending more time with myself and less time with other people. And it's like it hits on the blanket of, the monk mode, the lock yourself in a basement, whatever. But I never like resonated super well with that. What I kind of realized was the more time you spend with yourself, the better you get to know yourself, and then the more confidence you have. And like you said, this whole game is stepping into the unknown. So if you're stepping into it with anxiety and afraid it's not going to work, it's probably not going to work. And that's probably why the first 3 months are so rough, because you're just in this limbo. Whereas when I've just stepped forward with confidence in my instincts, like there's a reason I connected with this person. There's a reason, we're on this podcast. There's a reason they messaged me back on LinkedIn. It's like things start to work out. So yeah, I would say focus on building self-confidence because it is you. It's all on you, when you're an entrepreneur. Right. So yeah, that was a good question. I like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was going to say, like, I don't know how like spiritual or whatever you are, but I'm a big like law of attraction guy. So all of that stuff that you just said resonates really well with me.
Yeah. And I think more people are than I used to. I never used to put a lot of it out on the content, but I've just noticed it's like those are the people that are engaging. And once they're engaged, it's like they're hooked. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It's like, and I noticed a lot of people at the highest level, it's like they're in the same boat. They're not talking about it as much, but it's almost like there's a reason there's a book called The Secret, right? Like I started connecting the dots. It's like there's a book called The Secret for a reason. It's because it's kind of like one of those kept things. But I've tried to get better at the visualization piece. I think I'm really good at writing all the time and like ingraining it in my head, but visualizing it and like seeing what it really feels like. That's where I think I need to spend more time. I'm a big like McGregor clip person. I like watching his stuff because I know he's huge on that. But yeah, kind of off topic. Do you watch the UFC at all, or like anything outside the business that you're interested in?
No, man, I'm not super into sports, to be honest. Besides, I'm from Illinois, so I watch University of Illinois basketball every year. But other than that, man, I'm not super into like any sports or anything like that.
And what do you like the most about living in Nashville?
I love, like, it's one of the fastest growing metros in the country right now, and that's part of the reason I moved here. I moved here in 2021, so I've been here a little under 3 years. And the year that I moved here, it was the number one most moved city by people under 25, which I really loved because I was 23 at the time. And I was like, oh, there's going to be a lot of young people here. There's going to be a lot of opportunity and stuff like that. And now that I'm an entrepreneur, because I was not at the time, that also tells me, like, if there's so many people moving here and all these businesses are going to start coming here, which means like potential clients, potential connections, it's just a great place with a lot of potential, which is why I love it.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you hit on that. Like certain things, people listening to this, it's like where you want to go next, where you're being called to. It's like these areas of high opportunity and high growth. It just puts you in that environment, and it's no mistake. You're you're on the path that you're on. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad we kind of ended on that. But yeah, man, that was a lot of fun, dude. I think we got a lot out of this, and I really appreciate you taking the time. If you want to plug yourself, where we can find you, what we have to look forward to next, it's kind of your 60-second window, I guess.
Yeah, man. So if you guys want to check out my business, it's www.blacklightgrp.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok. My @ is Jeremy the Advertiser, is my kind of personal brand Instagram. And yeah, that's all.
All right. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much, brother. I'll get you all this within the week.
Yeah, man. Sorry for the phone call in the middle of it.
No worries. Appreciate it, dude. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great talking to you. Bye.
Peace.